Zigzags whispered, his antennae twitching in disbelief. "Shh! Keep your voice down," Blorp gurgled, his gelatinous form rippling with nervous energy. "They might hear you." The two alien students huddled behind a force field, watching as their human classmate, Sarah, jogged casually back to the starting line of the Galactic Academy's infamous combat training course. The course, lovingly nicknamed the Meat Grinder by sadistic instructors, was a hellscape of lasers, gravity wells, and simulated plasma bursts that would make even the toughest Proxian warrior weep into their tentacles. Sarah, however, looked about as concerned as someone deciding between vanilla and chocolate ice cream. She stretched her arms above her head, cracked her neck, and grinned at the slack-jawed, or equivalent alien orifice, expressions of her classmates. "Anyone want a race?" she called out, her voice dripping with a smugness that could probably be bottled and sold as a chemical weapon. The alien students collectively took a step back, which was quite a feat considering some of them didn't actually have legs. Is that legal?" A timid voice squeaked from the back of the group. It belonged to Pix, a being made entirely of crystalline structures who spent most of his time trying not to shatter from anxiety. "Well, technically." The instructor, a grizzled old Volcrin with more scars than smooth skin, growled. "There's no rule that says you have to wear armor. It's just that most species prefer not to, die horribly." Sarah shrugged, a motion that sent ripples of terror through her classmates. "Meh, it slows me down. Plus, do you have any idea how hard it is to scratch an itch in that stuff?" Zigzags leaned closer to Blorp, his mandibles clicking furiously. "I heard that humans come from a planet so terrifying they call it a death world. Can you believe that?" Blorp's entire body shuddered, causing small droplets of himself to splatter on the ground. "A whole planet of that?" he gurgled, gesturing at Sarah with a pseudopod. "No wonder they're so casual about the meat grinder. It probably reminds them of home." Meanwhile, Sarah had started doing jumping jacks, each impact of her feet on the ground sending tremors through the delicate sensory organs of her alien classmates. "Come on, guys," she encouraged. "It's not that bad. Think of it as a fun run, with the occasional threat of dismemberment." The instructor's exoskeleton creaked as he face-palmed, or the closest approximation given his alien physiology. "Stars above, I'm getting too old for this," he muttered. "All right, you lot. Since our resident Death Worlder here is so eager, let's see how you all handle the meat grinder today. Maybe her enthusiasm will rub off on you." A chorus of groans, clicks, and various other worldly sounds of despair rose from the group. "Oh, don't be such babies," Sarah chided, jogging in place. "Tell you what, I'll go first and show you it's not so bad. Just follow my lead." As Sarah took off like a shot, effortlessly dodging laser beams and leaping over plasma pits, Zigzags turned to Blorp with an expression of utter defeat. He chittered, "I'm starting to think we made a terrible mistake allowing humans into the Galactic Federation." Blorp wobbled in agreement. "Yeah, but on the bright side, at least the Vrexian Empire will think twice about invading us now." They watched as Sarah completed another lap, this time while humming what sounded suspiciously like Eye of the Tiger. "True," Zigzags conceded, "though I'm not sure which is more terrifying, the Vrexians or having her as an ally." As if on cue, Sarah backflipped over a gravity well, landed in a perfect superhero pose, and shouted, "Woo! Who's up for round 3? I'm just getting warmed up." The collective groan from her classmates could probably be heard in the next star system. "Definitely her," Blorp and Zigzags said in unison, as they reluctantly prepared to face the meat grinder themselves. Little did they know, this was just another Tuesday for Sarah. After all, compared to rush hour traffic on Earth, this was practically a walk in the park. As the alien students reluctantly shuffled towards the starting line, Sarah jogged over, still barely breaking a sweat. "Come on, guys, where's your fighting spirit?" Pix, the crystalline being, vibrated at a frequency that suggested imminent shattering. "I believe I left it in my other exoskeleton," he squeaked. "Oh, Pix," Sarah chuckled, patting him gently on what seemed to be a shoulder. The touch sent fractal patterns of panic rippling through his translucent body. "You're tougher than you think. You're literally made of the stuff they use in starship hulls." "Yes, but starships don't have anxiety disorders," Pix mumbled. Meanwhile, the instructor was busy recalibrating the course difficulty. "All right, you overgrown petri dishes," he bellowed, his voice a mix of gravel and barely concealed amusement. "I've dialed it down from certain death to probable maiming. You can thank your human friend for that." Sarah beamed, completely missing the sarcasm. "See, I'm already helping." Zigzags's antennae drooped. "Fantastic. Instead of being vaporized, we'll just be lightly toasted. What a comfort. As the first group of students tentatively approached the starting line, Blorp oozed over to Sarah. Hey, human, Sarah? I've got a question. Shoot, Sarah replied cheerfully, then quickly added. Figure of speech. Please don't actually shoot anything. Blorp's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been a chuckle. No, I was just wondering, how do you do it? How are you so fearless? Sarah's grin softened into a more thoughtful expression. Fearless? Nah, I'm scared plenty, but you know what's cooler than not being afraid? Not dying? Blorp suggested hopefully. Facing your fears head on, Sarah exclaimed, punching the air for emphasis. A nearby avian student molted in shock. Plus, you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm pretty sure that's just a human saying, Zigzags interjected. For most species in the galaxy, what doesn't kill you usually just leaves you with a crippling injury and emotional trauma. Sarah waved dismissively. Details. The point is, you've all got potential. You just need to believe in yourselves. Just then, a piercing shriek cut through the air. Everyone turned to see Pix, who had somehow made it halfway through the course, stuck in a gravity well. His crystalline body was slowly being pulled apart, creating a sound like nails on a chalkboard cranked up to 11. Oh, for the love of, the instructor grumbled. Someone get the gravity nullifier, and someone else fetch the broom and dustpan, just in case. As chaos erupted around them, Sarah turned back to her alien friends with an awkward grin. Okay, so maybe we start with something a little less intense. How about we try the mild inconvenience course next door? I hear it's got obstacles like slightly warm tea and mildly disagreeable weather. Blorp and Zigzags exchanged glances. You know, Blorp gurgled. That actually doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, Zigzags agreed, his antennae perking up slightly. Baby steps, right? Sarah beamed. Now you're getting it. And hey, if you make it through that, maybe we can tackle the mildly perturbing parkour next week. As they headed towards the exit, carefully sidestepping the ongoing Pix rescue operation, Zigzags chittered softly to Blorp. You know, maybe having a Death Worlder around isn't so bad after all. Blorp wobbled in agreement. True, though I can't help but wonder, if this is what they consider fun, what in the galaxy do humans do when they're actually trying to be dangerous? They both paused, considering the implications. In the background, Sarah was enthusiastically explaining to the instructor how they could spice up the mild inconvenience course with some harmless Earth concepts like rush hour traffic and social media arguments. On second thought, Zigzags said hastily, let's not think about that too hard. I'd like to keep what's left of my sanity intact. Agreed, Blorp burbled. Now, about that slightly warm tea. As they exited the training area, Sarah's voice echoed behind them. Hey, who wants to learn about this cool Earth game called paintball next week? The collective groan that followed could probably be heard all the way back on Earth. But beneath it all, there was a hint of fondness, a grudging respect, and maybe, just maybe, the tiniest spark of Death Worlder-inspired courage. After all, in a galaxy full of terrifying unknowns, sometimes the most shocking thing of all is realizing that you might be braver than you thought, especially when you've got a crazy human friend pushing you to your limits, one mildly inconvenient obstacle at a time. As the group made their way towards the mild inconvenience course, Sarah's enthusiasm seemed to grow with each step. It was as if the very concept of facing watered-down challenges was somehow even more exciting to her than the death-defying stunts she'd just pulled off. Ooh, look! She exclaimed, pointing at a sign. They've got a slightly awkward social interaction simulator. We've got to try that one. Zigzags's antennae twitched nervously. I'm not sure I'm ready for such intensity, he chittered. Can't we start with something easier like, I don't know, mildly unpleasant odors? Sarah laughed, a sound that made several nearby alien species instinctively check their defensive mechanisms. Come on, where's your sense of adventure? Besides, awkward social interactions are like a human specialty. I'll coach you through it. Blorp oozed forward, his gelatinous form wobbling with what might have been excitement or terror. It was hard to tell. You know, I've always wondered how humans navigate complex social hierarchies without telepathy or pheromone signaling. This could be educational. That's the spirit, Blorp, Sarah beamed, giving him a thumbs up. Blorp, lacking thumbs or any solid appendages, rippled appreciatively. As they approached the entrance to the slightly awkward social interaction simulator, a holographic sign flickered to life. Warning, This simulation may contain scenes of mild discomfort, including but not limited to forgotten names, mistimed high fives, and the ever-dreaded reply all email scenario. Proceed at your own risk. Sarah rubbed her hands together gleefully. Oh, this is gonna be good. The alien students exchanged worried glances. Pix, who had been reassembled and was now sporting a few new crystalline patches, chimed in with a timid, "Perhaps we should reconsider. I'm not sure my molecular structure can handle much more stress today." "Nonsense," Sarah declared. "Trust me, after this, facing down a few measly plasma cannons will feel like a walk in the park." As if on cue, the doors to the simulator hissed open, revealing a terrifyingly mundane office setting. A holographic receptionist looked up and smiled blandly. "Welcome to Generic Corp. Do you have an appointment?" Sarah turned to her alien companions with a mischievous grin. "Okay, gang. Who wants to go first? Remember, the key is confidence. And if all else fails, just pretend you're supposed to be there." Zigzag stepped forward, mandibles clicking nervously. I have come to exchange pleasantries and engage in mutually beneficial transactions," he attempted, his voice rising at the end as if asking a question. The holographic receptionist blinked. "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat your name?" And so began the aliens' crash course in human-style awkwardness. Over the next hour, they fumbled through scenarios ranging from elevator small talk to accidentally liking an old social media post. Each challenge was met with a mixture of confusion, horror, and the occasional bout of stress-induced molting. Sarah, for her part, seemed to be having the time of her life. She cheered on her friends, offered, sometimes questionable, advice, and at one point even volunteered to demonstrate the proper technique for the pretending to remember someone's name challenge. As they emerged from the simulator, disheveled but somehow intact, Blorp turned to Sarah. "I must admit," he gurgled, "that was surprisingly invigorating. Is this how humans prepare for actual combat situations?" Sarah chuckled. "Blorp, my gelatinous friend, you have no idea. Half of Earth's wars probably started because someone didn't know how to gracefully exit a conversation." Zigzag's antennae were still twitching from the residual awkwardness. "I never thought I'd say this, but I think I prefer the plasma cannons. At least they're straightforward about wanting to obliterate you." Pix, who had surprisingly made it through without shattering, nodded in agreement. The motion sent prismatic reflections dancing across the walls. "Indeed. Though I must say I feel different. Stronger, perhaps?" Sarah beamed with pride. "See? What did I tell you? Facing your fears, one awkward handshake at a time." As they made their way back to the main training area, they noticed a crowd gathered around a view screen. Curious, they approached to see what was causing the commotion. On the screen was a news broadcast. "Breaking news. Human diplomatic team successfully negotiates peace treaty with notoriously aggressive Zorgax Empire. Sources say the turning point came when the human ambassador accidentally used the wrong fork at a state dinner, endearing herself to the Zorgax leader who had made the same mistake moments earlier." The alien students turned to Sarah, eyes, or various sensory organs, wide with newfound respect. "You know," Zigzag said slowly, "I'm beginning to think we've been underestimating the power of human awkwardness all along." Sarah grinned, throwing an arm around her alien friends. "Oh, you have no idea. Just wait until I teach you guys about dad jokes. The galaxy won't know what hit it." As they walked off, chattering and laughing, or their species equivalent, the instructor watched them go with a mixture of bewilderment and amusement. He shook his head, mandibles clicking softly. "Deathworlders," he muttered to himself. "Just when you think you've got them figured out, they go and save the galaxy with social ineptitude. What's next? Defeating an alien armada with interpretive dance?" Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a human sneezed. And in that moment, a new intergalactic defense strategy was born. As the group made their way back to their dormitories, still buzzing with the strange mix of adrenaline and secondhand embarrassment from their mild inconvenience training, Sarah's communicator suddenly lit up with a series of rapid beeps. "Oh boy," she grinned, her eyes lighting up in a way that made her alien friends instinctively take a step back. "Guys, you're not gonna believe this," Blorp rippled nervously. "The last time you said that, we ended up trying to explain knock-knock jokes to the hive mind of Sector 7. Which, may I remind you," Zigzag added, his antennae twitching, "resulted in a 3-day philosophical debate about the nature of doors and the existential implications of knocking." Sarah waved dismissively. No, this is way better. Remember that little diplomatic incident I told you about? The one where I accidentally challenged the Graxlore ambassador to a dance-off instead of a duel? Pix's crystalline structure vibrated with what could only be described as a crystalline gulp. You mean the one that nearly started an interstellar war and got you banned from 3 star systems? Exactly! Sarah beamed, completely missing the tone of horror in Pix's voice. Well, apparently, word got around. The Galactic Council was so impressed by how I diffused tensions through interpretive movement that they want us to put together a cultural exchange program. There was a moment of stunned silence, broken only by the sound of Blorp slowly oozing into a puddle of disbelief. Zix-Zax was the first to find his voice. Us? As in, all of us? Representing our species in a cultural exchange? Sarah nodded enthusiastically. Yep, they want us to showcase the unique qualities of each of our cultures. Can you believe it? This is our chance to bring the galaxy together through the power of, well, whatever it is we do best. The alien students exchanged glances, a mix of terror and excitement rippling through the group. I suppose I could demonstrate the crystalline harmonics of my people, Pix offered tentatively, though I'll need to be careful not to shatter any sensitive equipment, or myself. Blorp gurgled thoughtfully. The ancestral blob dances of my species are said to be quite mesmerizing, as long as no one minds a bit of residual slime. Zix-Zax's antennae perked up. Oh, I could share the intricate mandible-clicking communication of my homeworld. It's actually quite poetic, once you get past the initial sounds of impending doom. Sarah clapped her hands together, her excitement palpable. This is perfect, and I've got just the thing to represent Earth. Her friends leaned in, curious despite themselves. 2 words, Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with mischief. Flash, mob. The blank stares she received in return only seemed to fuel her enthusiasm. Trust me, she continued, already pacing as she planned. Nothing says humanity like a group of strangers suddenly breaking into synchronized dance in a public space. It's got everything. Confusion, rhythm, the constant threat of public embarrassment. It's practically diplomacy in motion. As Sarah rambled on about choreography and the cultural significance of the Macarena, her alien friends found themselves swept up in her excitement. Sure, it was crazy, possibly dangerous, definitely weird, but wasn't that what had brought them all together in the first place? Zix-Zax chittered softly to Blorp. You know, I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, the true death world skill of humans isn't their physical resilience. Blorp wobbled in agreement. Indeed, it's their ability to turn any situation, no matter how dire or absurd, into an opportunity for connection. Pix, who had been quiet, suddenly chimed in. Do you think they might let me be in the center of the flash mob? I've always wanted to shine. Sarah overheard and threw an arm around Pix's crystalline shoulders, careful not to apply too much pressure. Buddy, we're going to make you sparkle so bright, they'll see you from the next galaxy. As the group huddled together, planning their grand cultural showcase, the instructor happened to walk by. He paused, watching the excited chatter and wild gesticulations, particularly from Sarah, who seemed to be demonstrating some kind of earth dance move that looked suspiciously like a chicken. He shook his head, a grudging smile on his face. You know, he muttered to himself, when they first suggested integrating humans into the Galactic Academy, I thought it was going to be a disaster. He watched as Sarah attempted to teach Blorp how to do a hip-hop move, resulting in a gelatinous wobble that sent ripples through the entire hallway. And I was right, the instructor continued, chuckling. It is a disaster, but somehow, it works. As he walked away, the sound of laughter, chittering, crystalline chiming, and Sarah's off-key humming of Stayin' Alive echoed through the corridor. In that moment, it didn't sound like chaos. It sounded like the future. A future where the galaxy's greatest strength wasn't in its advanced technology or military might, but in its ability to come together, laugh at itself, and maybe, just maybe, bust out a synchronized dance move or two in the face of adversity. As the day of the grand cultural exchange approached, the halls of the Galactic Academy buzzed with an energy that was equal parts excitement and trepidation. Delegates from across the cosmos were arriving, each curious to see what this ragtag group of students had put together. Sarah, naturally, was in her element. She'd somehow managed to transform one of the Academy's anti-gravity chambers into a makeshift rehearsal space, complete with a sound system that made the walls vibrate at frequencies that sent several silicon-based life forms into a state of blissful resonance. All right, gang, Sarah called out, clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. Let's take it from the top. Remember, it's step ball change, jazz hands, then Blorp, you do your gelatinous wave. Blorp gurgled affirmatively, his amorphous form rippling in what he hoped was a rhythmic manner. Next to him, Zix-Zax was practicing his mandible clicks, creating a beatbox-like rhythm that was actually quite catchy, if you ignored the fact that it sounded vaguely like a swarm of angry insects plotting world domination. Pix, true to his wish, had been placed at the center of their routine. Sarah had rigged up a series of lights that reflected off his crystalline body, turning him into a disco ball of galactic proportions. The effect was stunning, if slightly seizure-inducing for species with more than 3 eyes. As they ran through their routine one last time, a small crowd of curious onlookers had gathered at the chamber's entrance. Among them was the old instructor, who watched with a mix of horror and fascination. "Great galaxies," he muttered. "It's like a cosmic car crash. I want to look away, but I can't." Just then, a distinguished-looking Vorxian ambassador sidled up next to him, all 6 of her eyes wide with wonder. "I say," she remarked, her tentacles twirling in excitement, "is this some sort of sacred Earth ritual?" The instructor opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. After a moment's thought, he replied, "You know what? Yes it is. Very sacred, very serious. Absolutely not something they just made up last week." Inside the chamber, the routine was reaching its climax. Sarah was leading the group in a move she called the sprinkler, which looked less like irrigation and more like a seizure to the untrained eye. Zix-Zax's antennae were whirling so fast they were in danger of achieving liftoff, while Blorp had somehow managed to form himself into a shape that vaguely resembled a lava lamp. And in the center of it all, Pix twirled and shimmered, sending cascades of light across the chamber. He was radiating joy, literally, as his crystalline body had started to glow with an inner light that definitely wasn't part of the original choreography. As the final notes of their chosen song, a mashup of Stayin' Alive and the mating call of the Betelgeusian swamp slug, faded away, the group struck their final pose. There was a moment of breathless silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, the chamber erupted in applause. The gathered delegates drawn in by the spectacle were cheering, their various appendages clapping, waving, or vibrating in approval. The Vorxian ambassador turned to the instructor, her eyes brimming with what might have been tears, or possibly just excess ocular lubricant. It's beautiful," she whispered. "I've never seen anything like it. Is this how Earthlings normally communicate?" The instructor, caught off guard, stumbled over his words. Well, you see, that is to say..." Sarah, overhearing this, bounded over with a grin that could outshine a supernova. "Oh, absolutely," she chimed in. "This is how we solve all our problems on Earth. Intergalactic dispute, dance-off, climate crisis, conga line. You should see what we do for tax season." The ambassador's tentacles curled in delight. "Fascinating. We must incorporate this into our diplomatic protocols immediately." As the ambassador hurried off, presumably to report this groundbreaking discovery to her superiors, the instructor turned to Sarah with a mix of exasperation and reluctant admiration. "You realize what you've done, don't you? You've just convinced a significant portion of the galaxy that humans communicate primarily through interpretive dance." Sarah's grin, if possible, grew even wider. "I know. Isn't it great? Just think of the possibilities. We could prevent wars with waltz, negotiate treaties with tap, broker peace with breakdancing." The instructor sighed, but there was a twinkle in his compound eyes. "You know, when I first met you humans, I thought you were going to be the death of us all." "And now?" Sarah asked, bouncing on her toes. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Now I think you might just save us. In the most ridiculous way possible, but still." As they turned back to watch the continuing celebrations, where Blorp was now attempting to teach a group of fascinated diplomats how to do the blob, the instructor couldn't help but smile. In a galaxy full of wonders and terrors, perhaps what they needed all along wasn't the toughest warriors or the most advanced technology. Perhaps what they needed was a group of misfits crazy enough to believe that the power of friendship, terrible dance moves, and a healthy dose of human absurdity could bridge any gap, heal any rift, and light up the darkness between the stars. And as Pix's joyful glow lit up the chamber, outshining even the Academy's artificial suns, it seemed that perhaps, just perhaps, they were right. After all, in the face of cosmic chaos, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is strike a pose and dare the universe to laugh along with you. In the weeks following the cultural exchange, the Galactic Academy found itself at the center of an unprecedented intergalactic phenomenon. News of the Sacred Earth ritual had spread faster than a quantum virus, sparking a wave of dance fever that swept across the cosmos. Sarah and her friends became overnight celebrities, their faces, or equivalent sensory clusters, plastered across hollow billboards and space-time broadcasts. They were invited to perform at diplomatic functions, planetary inaugurations, and even a Blorgon wedding, which, given Blorgon's natural acidity, required some creative costuming. But it wasn't until the Galactic Council's annual summit that things really got interesting. "You want us to what?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide with disbelief as she stared at the holographic message from the council. Zix-Zax peered over her shoulder, his antennae twitching nervously. "Please tell me they're not asking us to—" "Oh, they are." Sarah grinned, her expression a mix of excitement and mischief that her friends had come to both love and fear. "They want us to lead the opening ceremony for the Galactic Council Summit. All 10,000 delegates, in a flash mob." There was a moment of stunned silence, broken only by the sound of picks vibrating at a frequency that threatened to shatter nearby glassware. Blorp was the first to speak, his gelatinous form rippling with what might have been excitement or terror. But how? Even if we could teach 10,000 different species to dance, how would we coordinate it? Some of them exist in different temporal planes. Sarah's grin widened. "That, my wobbling friend, is where the beauty of the flash mob comes in. It's not about perfection, it's about chaos, surprise, and the joy of shared absurdity." And so, armed with nothing but determination, a playlist of Earth's greatest hits, and an unhealthy amount of caffeine, or its various alien equivalents, the team set out to choreograph the largest, most diverse flash mob in galactic history. The day of the summit arrived, and the grand concourse of unity was packed with delegates from every corner of the known universe. Tentacles mingled with tentacles, appendages of all shapes and sizes gestured in animated conversation, and the air was filled with a cacophony of languages, ranging from melodic trills to subsonic rumbles. High above in the control room, Sarah and her friends watched nervously. "Okay, everyone remember the plan?" Sarah asked, her fingers hovering over the master control panel. Zix-Zax nodded, his mandibles clicking rhythmically. "I still can't believe we're doing this. The Galactic Council has existed for eons, maintaining peace and order across the cosmos, and we're about to turn their most solemn gathering into the greatest party this side of the Andromeda," Sarah finished for him, her eyes sparkling. "All right, gang, let's make history. Hit it!" With a dramatic flourish, she slammed her hand down on the big red button labeled, "In case of diplomatic emergency, dance." Instantly, the lights in the grand concourse dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd, quickly replaced by murmurs of confusion. Then, as the first notes of "Don't Stop Believin'" echoed through the chamber, a spotlight illuminated a single figure in the center of the room. It was the Vorxian ambassador, her tentacles raised high, swaying in perfect rhythm. One by one, other delegates began to join in. A Zorgax warrior bust out a surprisingly smooth moonwalk. A cloud of sentient gas pulsed in time with the beat. Even the notoriously stoic crystalline hive mind found itself caught up in the moment, its usually rigid structure undulating in a passable wave. From their vantage point, Sarah and her friends watched in awe as the flash mob grew, spreading like a joyous infection across the concourse. Species that had been at war for centuries were suddenly dancing side by side. Age-old rivals were attempting to teach each other their moves. A group of energy beings had formed a conga line that literally lit up the room. It's beautiful," Pix whispered, his crystalline form glowing with emotion. Blorp, who had somehow managed to form himself into a rough approximation of a disco ball, gurgled in agreement. "I never thought I'd see the day when the fate of the galaxy hinged on the Macarena." As the song reached its crescendo, Sarah turned to her friends, tears of joy in her eyes. "You know what? I think we just saved the galaxy." Zix-Zax, caught up in the moment, attempted a high five. It was awkward, uncoordinated, and nearly took out one of Blorp's pseudopods, but it was perfect. Down below, as 10,000 beings of all shapes, sizes, and dimensional states grooved to the music, something remarkable was happening. Old grudges were being forgotten, new friendships were forming. For the first time in recorded history, the entire Galactic Council was united, not by treaties or technology, but by the simple joy of dancing like no one was watching, even though, technically, the entire universe was. As the final notes faded away, there was a moment of breathless silence. Then, the grand concourse erupted in cheers, applause, and various species-specific expressions of jubilation. The old instructor, who had been watching from a corner, shook his head in disbelief. "Well, I'll be a Neptunian's uncle," he muttered. "They actually did it. They saved the galaxy. With dance." And as the celebration continued, with diplomats from across the cosmos attempting to teach each other their favorite moves, it became clear that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. After all, it's hard to stay mad at someone when you've just attempted a synchronized shimmy together. In that moment, as laughter and music echoed through the stars, the true power of humanity was revealed. Not in their strength or their technology, but in their ability to find joy in the absurd, to unite through shared embarrassment, and to face the vast, terrifying unknown of the universe with a grin and a willingness to bust a move.